Pleasure to be here at Cooper's Tavern this morning, and I want to thank Peter and Amy for having us here today. It's one of my favorite places. They have a great Reuben, and my daughter got married right up here, right behind the window, so kind of a special place for us. You know, businesses and restaurants, just like Cooper's Tavern, play critical roles not only in our economy, but they bring people together and provide unique experiences for residents and visitors alike. All across our state, people like Peter and Amy, Representative Hong, lots of others, have shown remarkable resilience and flexibility over the past 2 years. It hasn't been easy, and many are still struggling in the face of issues of supply chain challenges and inflationary costs, and of course, workforce challenges that existed well before the pandemic, but are still here today. That's why throughout the past 2 years, we have put our federal coronavirus relief funds to good use. This included $1 billion into supporting our small businesses, farmers, tourism, lodging, and entertainment industries. That includes more than $40 million to restaurants across our state through the We're All In Restaurant Grant Program, $245 million through We're All In grants, and more than $300 million through our Wisconsin Tomorrow Small Business Grant Program. To date, we've supported more than 100,000 small businesses, and 3,000 of those small businesses have opened up new storefronts and main streets across the state of Wisconsin. Many of these businesses also utilize federal relief funds available to them, including the Restaurant Revitalization Fund established under President Biden, which provided up to $10 million in grants to restaurants to help with their pandemic-related losses. These funds were lifelines for so many restaurants during their toughest hours. So I'm glad to be here today to sign Assembly Bill 717, which will ensure these funds are treated like the Paycheck Protection Program loans by making them state tax exempt. Additionally, I'll also be signing Senate Bill 339 today, which will bring state law into alignment with federal law, increasing the amount of ordinary income that may be offset by capital losses from $500 to $3,000. With these two bills, we hope to provide folks with a little more clarity and a little less stress and worry as they head into tax season. So with that, I'll hand this over to Secretary Peter Barca from the Department of Revenue. Peter?
Well, thank you, Governor, and it's terrific to be at the site of Cooper's to have this bill be signed today, and what a picturesque day if you look out the window. And Dave, I'm sure that we'll remember, because obviously this is a day when we can help, small businesses that really are the lifeblood of the various communities across the state. Growing up, working in the Flamingo Supper Club with my father and mother, I never imagined someday I'd be here with the Restaurant Association, the CPA Institute, that we work so hard together on this. And I know the governor recognized from the very start how important this would be. As the governor indicated, we've, other than giving money for public health, the next highest amount of funds that were given were to help small businesses. And we were pleased at the Department of Revenue to administer those grants. And we received so many notes and notices from various businesses, what a difference it meant for them. And so, Governor, you certainly are taking a huge step here today to focus specifically on the Restaurant Association. I'm so pleased the governor not only follows public health guidelines, but he also follows what our economists tell us. And we know that while the manufacturing part of the economy has rebounded past pre-pandemic levels, we're still not quite there in terms of the service industry and restaurants. So, Governor, this will help over 2,000 Wisconsin businesses that receive the funds from the SBA, totaling $379 million. So it's a huge step economically for our state. It's very important for small businesses, and at the Department of Revenue, we're pleased to be a part of that, and we appreciate the governor, and we appreciate the Restaurant Association and the Wisconsin Institute CPAs for working so diligently to provide this needed relief. So with that, I'll turn it over to Representative Francesca Hong, who is herself a restaurant owner, as well as a legislator, who I know really focuses on these kinds of small business issues. So Representative Hong, thank you for being with us.
Thanks so much, Secretary. Good morning. I want to thank Amy and Peter again, and some of the other small business owners here, Marcia Castro from the Old Fashioned, our friends at Main Street Alliance, and Mr. Kaminsky from Chula Vista, and my colleague, Representative Sue Conley. It's very good and very important for this very important bill signing today. And thank you to the governor. Your unrelenting support of independent restaurants across Wisconsin has been fantastic. And there's no doubt that our small and our micro businesses serve as the economic heartbeats of our communities. And I know this as a long time, over 15 years in the service industry, and now as a restaurant owner and representative to the fantastic 76th district here in Madison. I think supper clubs, cafes, restaurants, we are the core of what really makes Wisconsin, Wisconsin. But the impacts of COVID-19 have fundamentally changed the way we operate. When the pandemic hit over 2 years ago, it seemed like the economic safety nets that were meant to help us when our doors were closing and we knew we would probably be the last to open, that they just didn't exist. Many of my fellow industry folks suddenly couldn't afford to pay staff or pay their rent, and many other businesses that our businesses support. Bills piled up while our options dwindled. We realized quickly that it was just what was happening was much broader and deeper than just a virus. Our industry had gone decades of neglect, austerity, and lacked critical infrastructure like apprenticeships, education, and career building for the service industry to really help hold us up. But while we struggle, and we continue to, we've learned valuable lessons in the making. And I'm proud to say that we've set out to reknit that economic safety net for our independent restaurants. Thanks to Governor Evers, more than $550 million in small business grants have been allocated to main streets all across Wisconsin. And now with the passage of AB 717, thousands of restaurant owners will be free of an additional tax burden as we continue to navigate the debilitating interruptions in revenue. And especially now, with the costs of operating a restaurant, including rising food costs, services, our to-go packages, this legislation provides substantial relief to many of us. Because, you know, the truth is this pandemic is actually far from over, and it's hard to say or think about. But even today, restaurant owners continue to take on enormous debts while struggling to take care of our workers' well-being and wages. So there's still a lot of work to do. We can't forget about the thousands of restaurants and bars that were left out of receiving the critical restaurant revitalization funds. And this includes more than 3,700 restaurants across Wisconsin. We must not forget that we have yet to raise minimum wage, invest in childcare in meaningful ways, as well as expand healthcare access. So in order to truly get out of this pandemic with a better normal, Congress must replenish the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. And here in Wisconsin, our legislature must invest in forward-thinking economic policy. And frankly, I'd like to come into session and work harder for Wisconsinites. Governor Evers has actually already called for a special session focused on our state's estimated $3.8 billion, that's billion with a B, budget surplus. And with the help of the governor, the legislature has the plan and the funds to make sure that our communities and our restaurants are taken care of. We have no reason not to get back to work. Like those restaurants in the 76 who've shown exemplary leadership by lending a hand to those restaurants that didn't receive federal funds. I know our policymakers can do more and need to be committed, just like our restaurant owners, to building strong, thriving communities. Our working class Wisconsinites have invested in us for years, so now more than ever, it's time for us to return that favor. I want to thank Governor Evers again, and thank you all for being here. And I'd like to turn it over now to the fantastic Peter from Cooper's Tavern.
Morning, folks. I'd just like to start by thanking Governor Evers for his leadership in this matter. President Biden also. Bars across the state would not be open today if it wasn't, wasn't for the leadership. The pay protection money was able to keep us open, afloat. The bar would be closed without it. Kept us employed, kept families employed, paid our bills. It's just, it's nice to have some strong leadership, and everything that Francesca Hong said, totally agree with it's time that some of the smaller families, the minorities, people of color, who maybe weren't able to navigate the system can get some help. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Right, I will now sign the bills. Income and franchise tax exemption for the grants that they got from the federal government. This one will become Act 156. Here we go, folks. Number one. Deals with the issue of making sure that net losses counted appropriately. There's the next one. Pens appear.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for all your good work on this. These two really important stuff.
Thank you.
Everybody,
Yes.
first of all, before we take any questions, I want to thank all the people here who really worked hard on these two bills. Obviously, the pandemic has been a significant detriment to the livelihood of lots of restaurant owners across the state of Wisconsin. This is one way to help. Other ways we can help is continue to come back and start populating these restaurants, especially here in Madison, really across the state. I mean, the restaurant business is really important to our economy, to tourism industry, and whatever we can do to be helpful, get out there and spend some money in the restaurants. So with that, we'd love to answer any questions people might have.
It looks like the Senate tomorrow is going to pass this bill to break up the Milwaukee Public Schools. What do you think of that idea? Is that something you would veto?
Haven't seen it in the final form yet that it's been, but it seems illogical. There's no data to support that. That's going to help any children in the Milwaukee area, so it's likely to be vetoed. I'd much rather have them come in and take up, as Representative Long talked about, take up my plan to return some of that $3.8 billion to the people of Wisconsin. That would help our economy. Yes.
About the maps that the Supreme Court approved last week, those maps would put Senator Darling and Kiyunga in the same district, and Republicans have said that you were playing politics and trying to give Democrats an advantage with that least change approach. Were you trying to play politics, and what is your response?
I was trying to play politics. I was trying to get something through the Supreme Court of Wisconsin. No, that's ridiculous. We worked hard. I mean, first of all, I found the requirements as put forth by the Supreme Court limited our options significantly. And so the fact of the matter is it passed 4-3 in the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and there was not politics involved. We were just trying to make sure that votes count in this state. And this is one way that we are able to do that.
Do you think that map is a win for you? On the one hand, the court selected your maps. On the other hand, they still have a very Republican tilt. Is this good or bad for Democrats from a political scale?
Overall, it's a step forward. Overall, it's not where we need to be. we have this odd thing in the state of Wisconsin, and unfortunately a few other states, where it is hard to believe that all the people that are voting in at the state level are Democrats, and the Republicans have almost a 2-to-1 majority in the legislature. So we'll take any step forward as a step forward, but is it satisfactory? No.
Was your response to lawmakers on both sides who are worried that you're whittling down a majority black districts in Milwaukee?
We're actually increasing it by one.
And what do you think of the Republican criticism of Hagedorn? They feel like he betrayed them in some fashion. However, I mean, he supplied the majority vote for your maps, but he was also supplying the majority vote for the least changes, which was not good for your side.
It's a great world. Well, the Justice Hagedorn makes decisions based on what he believes are really core principles. But at the end of the day, there's no question that I remember when he ran for that office, he was a conservative. He is a conservative. I think he stakes out positions based on that conservative nature. But at the end of the day, I'm glad that he finds time every once in a while to give us a win.
Last question here.
What do you think about this Monday count issue? The Assembly and Senate have been going back and forth on it. The concept seems to be something that you have supported in the past, but Democrats have voted against it so far. It's unclear if it'll pass tomorrow. Do you think there's some kind of way to get something through that you could support?
I'm sorry.
The Monday counting of absentee ballots instead
Oh,
of...
yeah, that'd be great if we could. I mean, let's give our local people a chance to not have to be up at 3 in the morning counting ballots. So I think it's a logical thing to accomplish. We have great local people, and frankly at the state level too, that run our safe and secure elections. And whatever we can do to make that process work better, I would support, but I haven't seen the bill, so I can't respond to that. But counting ballots early, I think would help them locally.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.